Hey, if you've been taking ashwagandha, rhodiola, and other adrenal support supplements for months and you still feel exhausted, the supplements aren't the problem, the protocol is. Here's what I've seen working with people dealing with chronic fatigue and HPA axis dysregulation. Most people are treating adrenal fatigue like a deficiency, like there's a missing nutrient and the right pill is gonna fix it. But adrenal fatigue isn't a deficiency, it's a dysregulation, and you can't supplement your way out of a dysregulation. And this is why for years I've fought against other naturopathic doctors using the term adrenal fatigue or deficiency in favor of the term adrenal dysfunction. I've helped hundreds of people recover from burnout, and the ones who actually get their energy back are the ones who stop chasing the right supplement and start fixing the right systems. And if you're thinking, I've tried lifestyle stuff, it didn't work, well, stick with me, because what most people call a lifestyle change is nowhere near the level of intervention their nervous system actually needs. I'm gonna walk you through the 6 principles that explain what's actually happening in adrenal dysfunction and the protocol that addresses it at the root, not just on the surface. I'll even give you the exact recovery framework in the right order so that you can stop spinning your wheels. So screw the fluff, here are the 6 principles of real adrenal dysfunction recovery. Adrenal fatigue is a misleading name, and misunderstanding it is a good starting point for why most recovery attempts actually fail. Your adrenal glands sit on top of your kidneys, and they produce, amongst other things, cortisol, your primary stress hormone. They also produce adrenaline, DHEA, and a hormone called aldosterone. And these aren't optional chemicals. They regulate energy, longevity, immunity, blood pressure, and your entire stress response. The term adrenal fatigue, though, implies the glands themselves are tired, like they've run out of cortisol and they need a refill. But in most cases, that's actually not what's happening. What truly is happening in most HPA axis dysregulation is that the communication loop between the hypothalamus and your pituitary gland in your brain and your adrenal glands has lost its rhythm. The system isn't broken, it's stuck in a dysregulated pattern, usually as a result of chronic stress, poor sleep, blood sugar instability, or nervous system overactivation, probably a combination of all of these things. This distinction really matters enormously, because if you think you need to refuel your adrenals, you take supplements. But if you understand that your need is to recalibrate the system, you're gonna change your approach entirely. It's also why not all adrenal supplements or adaptogens are appropriate for every person with adrenal dysfunction. You're not depleted, you're dysregulated, and that's actually good news because dysregulation is reversible. So now that you know what you're actually dealing with, let's talk about why the supplements almost everyone reaches for adrenal fatigue are failing to help anyone. Adaptogens and adrenal supplements can support recovery, but only if the conditions destroying your adrenal system are addressed first. Think of it this way, if there's a hole in your boat, you can bail water as fast as you want, but until you patch the hole, you're just managing the sinking. So things like ashwagandha, rhodiola, licorice root, adrenal glandulars even, these are bailing tools. They can help you manage symptoms and modulate the stress response, but if you're still only sleeping 5 or less hours a night, if you're eating irregularly, if you're running on a combination of caffeine and fumes, and living in a state of chronic low-grade stress, the hole is still wide open in your boat. The research on adaptogens is real. Ashwagandha has legitimate evidence for cortisol modulation, rhodiola for stress resilience. But every one of those studies is conducted on people whose basic health inputs aren't actively destroying their HPA axis. This is one example where evidence-based medicine really needs to be applied to an individual case. When you're in deep dysregulation, taking an adaptogen is like taking a painkiller for a broken leg. It takes the edge off, but the fracture is still there. Look, supplements are the last 20% of the protocol, not the first. We've got to fix the inputs, things like sleep, blood sugar, the nervous system load, and then use supplements to accelerate what's already moving in the right direction. Now, if you're sitting on this and thinking, okay, but where do I actually start with the inputs? Well, that's exactly what I want to give to you. Because I see most people spend months trying to reverse engineer their own protocol, buying stack after stack of supplements, getting more confused, more exhausted, and more discouraged. That process doesn't have to take months, and it doesn't have to be a downward spiral. I put together a free adrenal recovery roadmap. It lays out the exact sequence of interventions in the right order based on the protocol I actually use with clients. It's free. Link is in the description, or you can scan the QR code right now. Grab it now while you're thinking about it. Which brings us to our next point. Cortisol is not just a stress hormone, it follows a precise daily rhythm, and disrupting that rhythm is one of the most common drivers of adrenal dysfunction. Now, in a healthy nervous system, cortisol follows what's called a diurnal pattern. It spikes sharply in the first 30 to 45 minutes after waking, and this is called the cortisol awakening response, or CAR. And then it gradually declines throughout the day, reaching its lowest point at nighttime. This rhythm serves a purpose. The morning spike mobilizes energy, it sharpens focus, and it prepares you for the demands of the day. The evening drop allows your nervous system to shift into repair and recovery mode. In adrenal dysfunction, this rhythm breaks down usually in one of 2 ways. Either the morning spike is blunted, so you wake up flat and with no energy, or it's inverted. Cortisol is low in the morning and it's elevated at night, making you wired and unable to get to sleep. In other cases, cortisol can be up and down more frequently than a yo-yo in my 11-year-old's hand, and your nervous system has no idea what it's supposed to be doing. Both patterns feed on themselves. Low morning cortisol makes you reach for caffeine, which artificially spikes cortisol at the wrong times throughout the day. High evening cortisol destroys sleep quality, which worsens HPA dysregulation the next day. Dr. James Wilson, who coined the term adrenal fatigue, noted that the single most common mistake in adrenal recovery is ignoring the cortisol rhythm entirely and expecting supplements to compensate for it. So anchor your cortisol rhythm. Get natural light within 30 minutes of waking, eat within an hour of waking. Eliminate caffeine before 9 a.m. and after 2 p.m. These shouldn't be preferences, they are circadian medicine. But your cortisol rhythm doesn't just get disrupted by sleep, it gets disrupted every time your blood sugar crashes. And most people with adrenal fatigue are doing this multiple times a day. Point number 4, every blood sugar crash is an adrenal event, and unstable blood sugar is one of the most under-recognized drivers of HPA axis dysregulation. Here's the mechanism. When your blood sugar drops, either from skipping meals or fasting or eating high sugar foods, or maybe not getting enough protein, your body reads that as a survival threat. To correct it, the brain signals your adrenal glands to release cortisol and adrenaline. Those hormones trigger gluconeogenesis, the conversion of stored resources into glucose, and dump that into the blood in order to bring blood sugar back up. It's perceiving a threat to its existence like a saber-toothed tiger. This is the same process that fires when you're in physical danger. Your adrenals don't distinguish between that saber-toothed tiger chasing you and the blood sugar crash at 3 p.m. They just fire. For someone with adrenal dysregulation, this means every unstable meal is an additional demand on a system that's already struggling to regulate itself. 3 blood sugar crashes a day is 3 additional cortisol spikes. 3 more times the HPA axis has to respond under load. This is why I feel like a broken record all the time with the burnt out professionals I work with every day. When I tell them that a basic routine and a regular timeline for waking, eating, exercising, sleeping, these are an imperative first step in recovery from adrenal dysfunction. Functional medicine physician Dr. Sarah Gottfried calls blood sugar instability the most overlooked adrenal stressor in clinical practice. It's hiding in plain sight in almost every single patient who presents with fatigue. Stabilize blood sugar as a non-negotiable foundation. Protein and fat at every meal. No meals skipped. Snack between meals if you need to, but not with high glycemic carbohydrates, and certainly not on their own without protein or fat. This single change reduces adrenal demand more than most supplements can do that are on the market. So now we've covered what's draining the system, but there's one input that does more for adrenal recovery than anything else you can do, and most people are chronically underdosing it. Which brings us to principle number 5. Deep, restorative sleep is not a recovery strategy, it is the recovery strategy. Nothing else is even meaningful. During deep, slow wave sleep, the HPA axis downregulates. Cortisol production drops to its lowest point, and the body releases growth hormone and brain-derived neurotropic factor, BDNF. These drive cellular and nervous system repair across every system in the body, including the adrenal glands themselves, which are in fact neurological tissue. This is when the system actually recovers, not during a meditation, not during a walk, not during your active recovery or your sauna, during deep sleep. And yet most people trying to recover from adrenal fatigue are sleeping poorly because their elevated evening cortisol is preventing them from entering deep sleep stages in the first place. This is the central trap of adrenal dysregulation. The thing that you need the most, deep sleep, is blocked by the very dysfunction that you're trying to recover from. Breaking this negative vicious circle requires intervening at sleep directly, not just getting more hours, but getting better sleep architecture, more slow wave sleep, lower cortisol at night. I've actually got a whole video talking about sleep and how to optimize slow wave deep sleep. I'll link you at the end of the video. Matthew Walker, neuroscientist and author of Why We Sleep, says sleep is the single most effective thing that we can do to reset our brain and our body's health. No aspect of our biology can neglect sleep and get away with it. So what's the lesson here? Well, we've got to treat sleep as the highest priority intervention in adrenal recovery. Block blue light after sunset, keep the room cold and dark, eat your last meal at least 3 hours before bed. These things create the hormonal conditions for deep sleep, and deep sleep creates the conditions for recovery. Now you've got the full picture: the dysregulation model, the supplement gap, the cortisol rhythm, blood sugar, sleep. Let me give you the full protocol in the right order so that you can actually execute on this starting tonight. Principle 6, the adrenal recovery protocol, the right interventions in the right order. Order matters here. Most people do this backwards. They start with the supplements and they end up confused when nothing sticks. The protocol works when the foundation is built first. Phase 1, stabilize the inputs. For the first 2 to 4 weeks, focus exclusively on blood sugar stability, sleep hygiene, and circadian anchoring. Protein at every single meal. light within 30 minutes of waking up in the morning. No caffeine after 2 p.m., screens off at least an hour before bed. This phase is non-negotiable. Nothing else is gonna work until this is in place. Phase 2, reduce the load. Identify and reduce the primary stressors that are draining your HPA axis. Now, this might mean reducing high-intensity exercise, at least temporarily, because chronic cardio is actually an adrenal stressor. It might also mean addressing gut inflammation, which keeps the immune system and cortisol system on high alert because it's got invaders coming into our body. It might mean an honest assessment of your workload and your interpersonal stress sources. Phase 3, support with targeted supplementation. So once the foundation is stable, adaptogens can become genuinely useful. Ashwagandha for cortisol modulation, phosphatidylserine for blunting excess cortisol, magnesium glycinate for sleep quality and HPA downregulation, B vitamins, especially B5 and B6 and B12 to support adrenal hormone synthesis and metabolic pathways. Now the supplements have a stable system to work with. Phase 4, rebuild capacity. Once energy stabilizes, usually around 6 to 12 weeks, gradually introduce physical training, starting with strength work and walking. This phase rebuilds stress resilience and HPA adaptability so the recovery holds long term. I usually start this with a very strict routine, so we want to be training your body and your brain to know exactly when to expect these stress inputs. Functional medicine pioneer Dr. Mark Hyman summarizes the core principles. You cannot medicate your way out of a lifestyle problem, but you can absolutely lifestyle your way out of what looks like a medical problem. This is a great way of explaining why your family doctor thinks that adrenal fatigue is bullshit, but you know that something's wrong. Recovery is not linear. It is sequential though. We want to build the foundation, reduce the load, and then support with supplements in that order. If you skip the sequence or get it mixed up, you're going to be buying a new supplement stack every 90 days and feeding the supplement industry monster that is increasingly being built like the drug industry. The bottom line, adrenal fatigue is real, but the name is misleading and the typical treatment approach is backwards. You're not depleted. Your system is dysregulated, and dysregulation responds to the right inputs: sleep, blood sugar stability, cortisol rhythm, reduced load, in the right order. When you fix the foundation first, the supplements you were already taking will actually start working, not because the supplements changed, but because the system that they're working on can finally work properly. The free adrenal recovery roadmap is in the description. It walks you through the full protocol phase by phase. Go down there, it's free, grab it now. If you want to go even deeper, I've got a video on sleep and exactly how to reset your sleep patterns and circadian rhythms. Click up here in the corner and I'll see you on the other side.